All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Well, if you're a fan of Kentucky basketball, what can I say? It's things did not go well for you so far in this NCAA tournament. And anybody knows college basketball knows that there's basketball fandom, okay? And then there's the expectations for the Kentucky Wildcats. Now, when you think about Kentucky, you think about one of college basketball's blue bloods, excuse me. And we're talking about a program that has won 8 national championships. They've had a who's who of legendary head coaches as well as a who's who of basketball alumni to wear the blue and white over the years. Now, for current Kentucky head coach John Calipari, he knew about those expectations when he arrived in Lexington back in 2009. And just 3 years later, he became accepted when he led the Cats to a national championship. Now, since then, Calipari has kept Kentucky in the spotlight as the Wildcats, they're always, for the most part, a top 20 team. You're always thinking about Kentucky and them making a run in the NCAA tournament. And Coach Cal does this every single year as he rolls out a new quintet of five true freshmen each year that, for the most part, are McDonald's All Americans. And they tend to be one and done as they have their sights set on the NBA. But the last 4 years have not been so kind to Coach Cal and Kentucky, especially in March. In 2021, Kentucky went 9-16 after they failed to qualify for any postseason tournaments whatsoever. In 2022, it was a rebound year for the Cats, and they earned a number two seed in the NCAA tournament, but they were sent home in the first round by St. Peter's. Last year, the Cats won a first round game, but they were still sent home early as they lost in the second round, courtesy of another Wildcat team, this time the squad, the bunch from K State. And now Calipari and Kentucky are once again licking their wounds as they were sent home last night as a three seed courtesy of the 14 seed Oakland. Okay, so everyone in the Bluegrass State woke up this morning and they knew the name of Jack Golke as he was raining threes on the Wildcats last night. You're talking about 32 points on 10 of 20 shooting, and each shot that Golke attempted last night against the Wildcats was from beyond the 3 point line. You just look at Kentucky and what can you say? After they made the Elite Eight back in 2019, Calipari and company are just 1-3 in the NCAA tournament since. And of course, I am sure that sports talk radio in Lexington and in the surrounding areas are really questioning things about this team right now. One thing that most people are going to question today, was Kentucky prepared for Oakland last night? And honestly, I'm going to say no, because you look at it, Jack Golke came off that bench. He wasn't even in the starting five. But if you looked at Kentucky play last night, they were very lethargic throughout, the early stages of that contest. They didn't have a rhythm. They didn't have a flow. And it's like, where have we seen this before? Well, you go back last week to the SEC tournament where the Wildcats were one and done courtesy of Texas A&M. They were, I'm not going to say lethargic, but I'm not going to say that they were ready for the Aggies last week as well. And I think there was definitely some carryover to last night's loss to Oakland on that. But then when Goki comes into this contest and he gets it going, if you're Kentucky and you're Coach Cal, you have to, switch your approach. I mean, we saw Goki coming off of screens last night, a la Steph Curry. We saw him bringing it up and, just letting it fly. And if you're Kentucky, you've got to make the adjustments. Defensively, he's coming off of those screens. You've got to step up, put a hand in his face, make him uncomfortable. You've got to take the ball out of his hands and make somebody else beat you. Kentucky did not do that, last night, and that is a big reason why their season just came to an end. So it's one of those, again, it comes down to coaching because why were there no adjustments made on Jack Golke last night if you're Kentucky? Now, I expected, like, there were some people who had Kentucky in the Final Four. I expected them to get it going at some point in this tournament, but still, that age-old adage, continues to ring, and that is no team that lost their conference tournament opener has gone on to win the national championship. And that is once again the case for this Kentucky team. You look at it again, lethargic. That's to me, I think, the best way to sum it up. And, they thought that they could just turn it on when they did. You have a young team in Kentucky going up against a veteran team like Oakland. And of course, some people are going to say, has that one and done fad in Lexington reached its peak? You think about Coach Cal and you think about Coach K when he was at Duke, and it was basically, the one and done kids, the McDonald's All Americans, you name it. And now the transfer portal is really changing things. And even before that, it was still tough, to win with the one and done kids. When Coach Cal did it back in 2012, he had some guys stay from the previous year due to the fact that, guys didn't leave early that year due to the fact that there was a lockout in the NBA. And guys didn't know, well, am I going to get drafted and am I just going to not play, or let me just stay in college and get some more reps? And they did. And of course, Kentucky reaped the benefits that year. But since then, we've seen Kentucky get to the Final Four one time, but there's always that what if or that yeah, but for them in the postseason. And now, after getting to the regional final back in 2019, it's been a lot of early exits for this Kentucky team and Coach Cal. And of course, the folks in Lexington really don't take kind to that, regardless of what you've done in the past. You think about it. Tubby Smith had success at Kentucky. But you know what? After, consistently coming up short in the NCAA tournament, he was run out of town as well. They thought they had their guy in Billy Gillispie. That didn't work out. And then, of course, it's been John Calipari ever since. But it's one of those things where these young Wildcats, in my opinion, they're not built for March. Okay. It's one of those where they're losing in the veteran clubs with that are guard oriented. We saw it a couple of years ago with St. Peter's, and we saw it once again last night in the form of Oakland. And if you're Kentucky, all right, you just survived the gauntlet that was the SEC. Kentucky finished tied for second in this league with Auburn, with Alabama, and with South Carolina. The SEC was a brutal battle this year. We saw 8 teams, make the NCAA tournament from the SEC. And of course, if you're an SEC team, you probably figured, you know what? All right, we survived that, now we can breathe a little bit and get on to the NCAA tournament. Not that easy because you've got some very skilled teams from other conferences that you're going to have to face. And Kentucky found that out last night the hard way in the form of Oakland. Now, I'm sure that there's going to be some people that want Kentucky to move on from John Calipari after another disappointing appearance in the NCAA tournament. But guess what? He's got a $33 million buyout. Coach Cal is not going anywhere. And it's one of those where sometimes, when you give coaches like these bigger like extensions, sometimes they tend to get a little comfortable. I'm not saying that that's the case with John Calipari because he still goes out there and recruits. He still goes out there and wins in the SEC. But of course, just winning in the regular season and doing it in the postseason are two different things in Kentucky. The folks there are, they're bred to it. This is what they expect year in and year out. And of course, in recent years, the results simply have not been there in March for Coach Cal. So I think that, Coach Cal sees the writing on the wall from the standpoint that, hey, he needs to go out there and make some adjustments. And I think, it's one of those where he's basically said, he's coached the young kids for, his entire career. But I think now is the time where Coach Cal maybe goes and makes, some adjustments to who he brings into Kentucky. not just, the fabulous freshman. Maybe he goes out there and hits up the transfer portal and finds a veteran player that, has established himself at another school for like 2 or 3 years, and he wants to come play for Coach Cal and let John Calipari just put that glitter on him, if you will, to help him take that next step in his respective career to get to the NBA. But that's what it's going to take at this point. You think about it, Kentucky is always going to be Kentucky. The expectations are always going to be there, but unfortunately with what we're seeing in recent years, what they do well just does not transfer over to the month of March. And then, of course, in Lexington, it comes down to what you do in March. The folks there, they want to see those deep runs. They want to go to the Final Four. They want to be playing for the national championship. They want to win a national championship. And it's like Kentucky basketball is kind of like Duke, North Carolina, and UCLA on the college basketball scene. And you could throw Indiana into that mix as well, even though that they have not won for quite some time now. The folks there want to see you in contention every year, and they want to see you making those pushes. It's kind of like the Yankees in baseball. This is the expectations of their fans. And last night, the loss for Kentucky is going to be a bitter pill to swallow for the folks there. But let's see how Coach Cal goes back to the drawing board, and let's see what he does next to help Kentucky make a deeper run come next March, should they be able to get to the NCAA tournament. But like I said before, the folks in Lexington are going to remember the name Jack Golke for a very long time. He had these Wildcats eating out of the palm of his hands. And now let's see what Coach Cal and company can do to make adjustments going forward to help Kentucky make deep runs in the NCAA tournament. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful